This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by M.L. Cohen. www.mojomove411.com. Cleveland, Ohio, October 2007. Essays in Radical Empiricism by William James. Chapter 3. The Thing and Its Relations. Experience, in its immediacy, seems perfectly fluent. The active sense of living which we all enjoy, before reflection shadows our instinctive world for us, is self-luminous, and suggests no paradoxes. Its difficulties are disappointments and uncertainties. They are not intellectual contradictions. When the reflective intellect gets at work, however, it discovers incomprehensibilities in the flowing process. Distinguishing its elements and parts, it gives them separate names, and what it thus disjoins, it cannot easily put together. Pyrrhonism accepts the irrationality and revels in its dialectic elaboration. Other philosophies try, some by ignoring, some by resisting, and some by turning the dialectical procedure against itself, negating its first negations, to restore the fluent sense of life again, and let redemption take the place of innocence. The perfection with which any philosophy may do this is the measure of its human success and of its importance in philosophical history. In the last essay, A World of Pure Experience, I tried my own hand sketchily at the problem, resisting certain first steps of dialectics by insisting in a general way that the immediately experienced conjunctive relations are as real as anything else. If my sketch is not to appear too naif, I must come closer to the details, and in the present essay I propose to do so. Pure experience is the name which I give to the immediate flux of life which furnishes the material to our later reflection with its conceptual categories. Only newborn babes, or men in semi-coma from sleep, drugs, illnesses, or blows, may be assumed to have an experience pure in the literal sense of a that, which is not yet any definite what, though ready to be all sorts of whats, full both of oneness and of manyness, but in respects that don't appear, changing throughout, yet so confusedly that its phases interpenetrate, and no points, either of distinction or of identity, can be caught. Pure experience in this state is but another name for feeling or sensation. But the flux of it no sooner comes than it tends to fill itself with emphases, and these salient parts become identified and fixed and abstracted, so that experience now flows as if shot through with adjectives and nouns and prepositions and conjunctions. Its purity is only a relative term, meaning the proportional amount of unverbalized sensation which it embodies. Far back as we go, the flux, both as a whole and in its parts, is that of things conjunct and separated. The great continua of time, space, and the self envelop everything betwixt them, and flow together without interfering. The things that they envelop come as separate in some ways, and as continuous in others. Some sensations coalesce with some ideas, and others are irreconcilable. Qualities compenetrate one space, or exclude each other from it. They cling together persistently in groups that move as units, or else they separate. Their changes are abrupt or discontinuous, and their kinds resemble or differ, and, as they do so, they fall into either even or irregular series. In all this, the continuities and the discontinuities are absolutely coordinate matters of immediate feeling. The conjunctions are as primordial elements of fact, as are the distinctions and disjunctions. In the same act by which I feel that this passing minute is a new pulse of my life, I feel that the old life continues into it, and the feeling of continuance in no ways jars upon the simultaneous feeling of a novelty. They too compenetrate harmoniously. Prepositions, copulas, and conjunctions, is, isn't, then, before, in, on, beside, between, next, like, unlike, as, but, flower out of the stream of pure experience, the stream of concretes or the sensational stream, as naturally as nouns and adjectives do, and they melt into it again as fluidly when we apply them to a new portion of the stream. 2. If now we ask why we must thus translate experience from a more concrete or pure into a more intellectualized form, filling it with ever more abounding conceptual distinctions, rationalism and naturalism give different replies. The rationalistic answer is that the theoretic life is absolute, and its interest imperative, that to understand is simply the duty of man, and that who questions this need not be argued with, for by the fact of arguing he gives away his case. The naturalist answer is that the environment kills as well as sustains us, and that the tendency of raw experience to extinguish the experient himself is lessened just in a degree in which the elements in it that have a practical bearing upon life are analyzed out of the continuum and verbally fixed and coupled together, so that we may know what is in the wind for us and get ready to react in time. Had pure experience, the naturalist says, been always perfectly healthy, there would never have arisen the necessity of isolating or verbalizing any of its terms. We should just have experience inarticulately and unintellectually enjoyed. This leaning on reaction in the naturalist account implies that, whenever we intellectualize a relatively pure experience, we ought to do so for the sake of redescending to the purer or more concrete level again, and that if an intellect stays aloft among its abstract terms and general relations, and does not reinsert itself with its conclusions into some particular point of the immediate stream of life, it fails to finish out its function and leaves its normal race unrun. Most rationalists nowadays will agree that naturalism gives a true enough account of the way in which our intellect arose at first, but they will deny these latter implications. The case, they will say, resembles that of sexual love. Originating in the animal need of getting another generation born, this passion has developed secondarily such imperious spiritual needs that if you ask why another generation ought to be born at all, the answer is, chiefly that love may go on. Just so with our intellect. It originated as a practical means of serving life, but it has developed incidentally the function of understanding absolute truth, and life itself now seems to be given chiefly as a means by which that function may be prosecuted. But truth and the understanding of it lie among the abstracts and universals, so the intellect now carries on its higher business wholly in this region, without any need of redescending into pure experience again. If the contrasted tendencies which I thus designate as naturalistic and rationalistic are not recognized by the reader, perhaps an example will make them more concrete. Mr. Bradley, for instance, is an ultra-rationalist. He admits that our intellect is primarily practical, but says that, for philosophers, the practical need is simply truth. Truth, moreover, must be assumed consistent. Immediate experience has to be broken into subjects and qualities, terms and relations, to be understood as truth at all. Yet, when so broken, it is less consistent than ever. Taken raw, it is all undistinguished. Intellectualized, it is all distinction, without oneness. Quote, such an arrangement may work, but the theoretic problem is not solved. End quote. The question is, quote, how the diversity can exist in harmony with the oneness. End quote. To go back to pure experience is unavailing. Quote, mere feeling gives no answer to our riddle. End quote. Even if your intuition is a fact, it is not an understanding. Quote, it is a mere experience and furnishes no consistent view. End quote. The experience offered as facts or truths, quote, I find that my intellect rejects because they contradict themselves. They offer a complex of diversities conjoined in a way which it feels is not its way and which it cannot repeat as its own. For to be satisfied, my intellect must understand, and it cannot understand